Hi everyone, I'm Ray and welcome to my kitchen. And today you are in for a sweet treat because we are making a guilt-free apple-pear crisp. I kept going to these events and we were always faced with desserts at these events, and people would always ask me, why aren't you eating dessert? And I would just make a comment that I'm not eating a lot of sugar and flour. And I would get responses like, oh, you only live once, or life's too short, and so I decided to come up with my own live life and surrender to this guilt-free dessert, really because I plan to live long by eating healthy ingredients. Hopefully you're gonna join me and you're gonna eat healthy ingredients and live long too. In the meantime, let's put this dessert together. So we are gonna be using Granny Smith apples and Bartlett pears. And I don't know if you knew this, but pears and apples are in the same family of fruits called the pome family. And those are fruits that have core. So both of these have a core to them. So we're gonna peel them and core them, and then we're gonna layer them in this dish. And then we're going to top it with this beautiful streusel topping. And so I want to make the topping now, and then I'm going to go off camera and peel and slice all the fruits, and then we'll come back together and put it all in the dish and then pop it in the oven. So let's start by putting the streusel together. So I'm going to use some gluten-free organic oats. I am going to use some organic chopped pecans. I am going to use some shredded coconut, and I am going to use these beautiful spices. I mix these together ahead of time. It's a combination of cinnamon and vanilla and nutmeg, all yummy together. And then we're just gonna stir this up. And this is going to be the basis for our topping. But we are going to sweeten it with, guess what? Date paste. That's right. And so what I'm doing is I'm mixing this part of it together first before we add the date paste, because we're not going to use all of this in this recipe. But when I make this recipe, what I like to do is I like to kind of make a double batch of this, because you can keep this part of it together in your pantry, and then next time when you go to make this, all you have to do is add the date paste. And so it makes it like you've always got it on hand if you need to whip up a quick dessert. This is kind of one of my go-tos, right? So I am going to get a spoon, and then we are going to put some of this back into a glass container for storage, and then what's left we will put on top of our yummy dessert that we're creating here. So I think that should be good. I think I'm gonna leave about that much in here. Maybe take a little bit more. Okay, and then we're gonna add the date paste. And this is about, I'm gonna say maybe a third, maybe a half cup of date paste. And I'm just gonna get all of it out of this little dish. I just happen to have this pre-made in the refrigerator. If you haven't seen the video on how to make date paste, you know, I use date paste a lot. And so I do have the standing recipe on my website, and I also have a video on how to make it. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave the links below in the show notes, and you can go and you can see how to make the date paste, so you have that on hand as well. So the fact that I had the date paste already on hand makes it a lot easier, because it's not that it's it's not that it's a lot of steps to make the date paste, but it is a little bit time consuming because you have to soak the dates overnight, okay? So now I'm just mixing this together, and I always have to get my hands in it, and that is because I really want it to become a crumble. And so I need a little bit of this date paste kind of on every bit of this beautiful seasoning and oatmeal and nut concoction that we've got going here. So that seems pretty good at this point. Yeah. So see, it's kind of chunky. That's exactly how we want it. We've got the oven preheating behind me. So once the oven's ready and I've got the apples and pears ready to go into the baking dish, then we'll be ready to pop this in the oven. All right, don't go away. We'll be right back. The apples and the pears have been peeled and cored and sliced, and we are ready to start layering them into the baking dish. So I ended up using 3 green apples, 3 Granny Smith, and 3 Bartlett pears. So it's gonna be equal And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna layer them in the pan. And so I'm starting with the apples on the bottom, primarily because they're more sturdy. And so I'm gonna alternate layers. So it's gonna be a layer of apple, followed by a layer of pear, followed by a layer of apple, and so on. And we're just going to go around the bottom of the pan. You'll notice I didn't put any oil in the pan, don't need to. You just wait and see how this is gonna turn out. It's gonna be beautiful and delicious. All right, and now on to the pear. And so same thing, I'm just gonna continue to layer in the same fashion, but now using the pear instead of the apple. And so we'll do this until the whole thing is filled up. We have everything layered in our baking dish, and now we're going to add the streusel. We're just gonna spoon it on top, and I usually start at the edge of the pan because I notice that the apples and the pears don't always fit nicely into the edges of the pan. I mean, I got pretty close. I love the shape of this dish for this particular recipe because the way the apples and the pears get sliced, it turns out that the shape that they're cut in seems to fit more in this oblong pan better than in any other pan, which is why I choose to use this particular baking dish. And so again, I'm just gonna start on the edges and we're gonna finish going all the way around, and then we'll finish topping it off in the center. Oops. And then we'll put it in the oven. We have our topping completely put on the top of our apple and pear combination beneath this. And you'll notice it's kind of raised. When it comes out of the oven, the apples and pears tend to shrink when they get cooked. And so it's gonna crunch down a little bit. Now, I don't think it will, but it could bubble up because we're going to put it in a pretty warm oven and we're gonna cook it for a long period of time. It may also get a little cooked on top, so I may need to cover it with foil, but I am going to put it on a baking dish with some parchment paper. And just in case, I'd rather have it boil over onto the pan than onto the oven, on the inside of the oven. So I'm just gonna tuck these edges under so that they don't burn. And then we're gonna pop it in the oven. I'm gonna cook it for an hour. I'm gonna put it in for about 30 minutes and then I'll check the top, and if it's getting too brown, then I'll put a piece of foil on and let it finish baking with the foil on top. And I will be back as soon as it comes out of the oven so we can take a look at how it turned out, and of course, we have to taste it. We've got our crisp out of the oven and it's been cooling for about 15 minutes, so it's still actually pretty hot. I went ahead and dug into it so that I could put a little bit in a bowl to sample it. And I'm super excited. I love this dish. I've made it many times before. And it really is a guilt-free way to enjoy a very nice, comforting dessert. And you know, apples and pears are so good. They're so full of fiber. We didn't add any added sugar to this. So the only thing that's sweetening this dish is the date paste that's part of the streusel topping. And then of course the apples and the pears themselves, which is so beautiful. And so I'm anxious to see how this batch turned out. You notice it did get a little bit brown on top, and I actually even covered it with foil. And that's just the date paste caramelizing in the hot oven. So if you don't like that kind of doneness on it, you know, you might want to cook it for a little bit longer in a lower temperature oven. I actually like it because I like it really crispy. So let's have a taste. One of the things I love about this dish is the pecans. The pecans give it such a nice buttery flavor. The beauty of this is you can taste pretty much every ingredient in it. I taste the oats, I taste the cinnamon, I taste the nutmeg, I taste the vanilla, the pears, the apples, the coconut. It's just absolutely delicious. I hope you will enjoy this guilt-free recipe. You saw how easy it was to make. It's basically peeling, coring and slicing apples, and then the streusel topping is so easy to put together. The longest time is, you know, the hour that it cooks in the oven, but it is well worth it. And I have in the past actually topped this with some unflavored coconut, sorry, not unflavored. Well, it is unflavored. It's unflavored and unsweetened coconut yogurt. And it is so delicious topped with that coconut yogurt. But I actually just wanted to taste this right now. And so if you were serving it for company, you know, you could top it with the yogurt and it would add just another layer of flavor. But I love it just like this. Bon appetit, everyone.